Baker, put your hands in the air, give me all your money.
This is the story of my baker, the meanest cat.
Greetings on this sweltering day from Castle Goring, from Mickey, Aurora, and from me. I am afraid you're going to have to put up with a glimpse of aging flesh because it is so hot that I can barely breathe, much less think. And therefore I am dressed accordingly for the beach, except it's not the beach. So without further ado, if you will bear with me and try to just ignore, sorry, but I'm just too hot to wear anything else but practically nothing. So if you will bear with me, I will plunge in with what Victoria Goodison Barrack says. I have just seen a video that strongly suggests in the digital info on Meghan's website for her shop that all of her goods come from a respected firm called the Republic of Tea. Even the sprinkles. All her workers do, therefore, is tip it out of the original packaging and put it into a box sporting as ever. How on earth does this person get away with this? There is no doubt that the supplier of her goods up to now has been the Republic of Tea, much of which is produced in Illinois. So there is, I gather, a branch near Meghan's about 300 miles away. And that's very near, really, because, let's remember she has been leading us to believe that it was out of her garden. But, so 300 miles is relatively near. 2,000, not quite so near. How does she get away with it? She's not getting away with it. That is the point. Meghan hasn't yet learned that the game changed when she became royal. When she married Harry, and even before she married Harry, once she was absorbed into the royal circle, BS no longer was the order of the day. BS is what got her to where she was. You know, when she was an actress and she met through Corey Vitiello, she met Sophie Trudeau and people of that ilk, and she moved up in the world socially. She reconnected with her humanitarian instincts, which had been noticeably lacking after school when she had done what all other Catholic girls from that sort of school did, which was a degree of social work. And she completely forgot about it until she discovered, when she was mixing in the Trudeau circle and the Mulroney circle in Canada, that it played well to be leftist and it played well to be humanitarian. And at that point, what did Megsy Baby do? She discovered that she always had such a lust for the poor, and she started to do things like volunteer again for kitchens, and so wonderful. Well, it played very well with the Trudeaus and the Mulroneys, of course. Not playing so well now. I understand that Jessica Mulroney has a really interesting take on Megsy Baby, but we're not going to embarrass Jessica Mulroney now. And she then did things really through her agents. you've got to get me photo ops where I'm going to be a humanitarian. So she went to Africa and she posed with all sorts of poor people. Am I not just wonderful? I just love posing with poor people, especially when they're black. I mean, look at me. I'm not black, but they're black. I pass for white. They can't. Am I not just so precious? But of course, I'm going to claim being black when it suits me. So she then goes to India and she does a similar thing in India. Now, I happen to know all about the Indian trip because a friend of mine told me that she paid, and they were very happy to be paid, a whole load of very poor women to pose with her. And they were absolutely thrilled. And being Jamaican, I know what poverty is like, and I'm not condemning anybody who poses with a foreigner in a situation like that. Good for them. Easy money, take it, pocket it, and run. Well, Megsy Baby had that wheeze until she entered the royal family. And she has continued the pretense of being a humanitarian, when all along, as Gina Nelthorpe Cowan, her former manager, said, she's really just a businesswoman. And it's all about bucks where Megsy Baby is concerned. Well, what does she do? She's going to be authentic. She's going to show everybody that I'm a real lady, I'm a princess, I'm a duchess, I'm just wonderful. And what does that mean? It means that I'm going to create jam. And everybody knows with me, it's all jam, 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 jam. I'm jamming. My truth is as sweet as jam. And I'm an expert on making jam. And I've created a recipe that's being followed because it's all very artisanal, because I'm an artisanal sort of person. Well, of course, it's all BS, to be polite about it. And the mistake she has made is she still thinks that her packs of lies are gonna work, and they don't any longer, because people know she's as authentic as a $3 bill or the teeth in her mouth. And people know that they can't believe a word she says, but she's selling a dream, the dream of what it's like to be a rich, confident woman of colour, star of suits, and passed for white, now totally black, at least 43% Nigerian. And I'm just going to dupe the world with how caring I am. And I'm going to go on that caring shtick because that brilliant fox that I married is the person who fell hook, line and sinker for it, and even does when I reel him back in. Am I not clever? Problem is, the world isn't falling for it. The world smells a phony when they see one. And they've seen Meghan coming and going. And she regards it as desirable to have this faux facade. With, look, I'm so perfect. I'm so wonderful. I'm a marvelous person. You've got to listen to me. I'm just loving. I know all about family. I know all about love. Sorry. That man just loves me so much. Oh, he does. He just worships at my altar. Well, she's been found out yet again because Meghan hasn't yet understood that even slugs slithering across garden slabs leave a trail of slime that when the light hits it in a certain way, you can see where it came from and where it has gone to. Meghan is a slug that leaves trails of slime everywhere, and she gets found out systematically. Does she think she can get away with it? She doesn't think she can. She works at getting away with it. Look at what she has posted recently. Look, I've got a peach tree. My peaches are green, so I'm going to hold a ripe, apricots, not peaches, apricots. I'm going to hold a ripe apricot in my hand. And all of you dupes are going to be so dumb and blind that you're not going to be able to see that all the the apricots around it are green, and mine is bright apricot colored. And, it's like, do you remember those special carrots that I dug out of my garden? The ones that stalks were trimmed, no dirt on them, because I'm so special, I'm so authentic, and you've got to believe anything I say, even if you have eyes in your head and brains as well, you're going to believe anything I say. Except people aren't believing what she says. They see it for the fraud that it is. The tragedy is none of this is necessary. If she were a dignified duchess, she would be able to sell her produce, and she would have had admirers who would have bought the produce in far greater droves than the people who are buying it at the moment, because she has such reduced followings compared to what she could have had and should have had and did have when she was in the royal family. So I hope that answers that question. Darlene says, Me Gaines' face has been looking bad lately. I'm not trying to be mean. She just looks not good. Old, stressed, worried. Something. Yes. Well, she's had work done and she's lost a lot of weight. I mean, there's no accident that she's been calling Harry, Madrugo? Or Mandingo? No, that's a character in a film. What's it called? Maduro? That's not it either. Oh, the Ozempic one. I can't remember the name, sorry. But she's been on that quite obviously. And she has had work done, but she is looking very plain, very stressed. She has been wearing less makeup. She's been told she should come across as more natural. So she's still wearing a lot of makeup, but it's the no makeup look which doesn't suit her. And then she has all of these facial expressions which are phony, fighting through the barriers to present as sincere, and people pick up on all of that as well. She is stressed, and she should be stressed, because the fact of the matter is she isn't only struggling to maintain a facade personally and within her personal life and within her marriage, she's also struggling to maintain a facade which has been increasingly recognized as being false with the public at large. And it's very difficult to maintain a facade on many levels when it's no longer working successfully, but you don't have the backup of sincerity. So it becomes ever increasingly stressful to, like Sisyphus, push that boulder up the mountainside, because it's so really difficult to have to be always so wonderfully happy and joyous. And I'm just so pleased with all of you. And I'm just so delighted that everybody loves me so much, when she knows they don't. I am advised that everything is very precariously balanced at the moment between catastrophic failure and a far more limited degree of success than she ever hoped for. So she has a bitter pill to swallow, no matter which way you look at it. She's caught between a rock and a hard place, to mix my metaphors. The rock is catastrophic failure, which she is in danger of achieving, and the hard place is limited success, which is very unlikely to be able to maintain her lifestyle and certainly not to fulfill her overweening ambitions of becoming a multi-billionairess. It's not happening. She has the support of Ted Sarandos, but he doesn't have the support of many people at Netflix. But they are backing her to a limited degree. And I have explained this before, and I don't think I need to explain it again. The limits of the backing are very evident in the way the products have been launched. So everything is on a minimal level. They are hoping for an outstanding success, and she's busily posting on practically a daily basis. Oh, look at me. I'm so natural, and I'm just so down to earth, and I'm going to show you what it's like to be a royal duchess, picking apricots from my own orchard. Oh, and look, big ripe apricots surrounded by green apricots. Aren't you all so stupid? Weir says, this one's wife was never in love with Harry and never will be. She's incapable of it. She was in love with the notion that she would be set for life with the privileges she expected from royalty, though she has been given a harsh reality that she simply can't accept. Even royalty need to work for their lot in life, in which the actual royal family display exemplarily. I agree with that. The royals do work, because it's pretty arduous, I can tell you, fulfilling royal duties. It may appear to be cushy, but it's not really cushy. There's been a very interesting Substack done by Sally Bedell Smith. Sally Bedell Smith is an author who has written one or two well-received and well-regarded books on the royals. She was a friend of Lady Elizabeth Anson, otherwise known as Lady Elizabeth Shackley, otherwise known as Liz Anson, and some people called her Liza, but she was basically Liz Anson. She had a company called Party Planners. She was Queen Elizabeth II's first cousin. Is that correct? Let me think this through. First cousin once removed, not first cousin. Liz Anson's mother was born Anne Bowes-Lan. She is the one who had two sisters who ended up in the institution. It was her two sisters. She married Patrick Litchfield's father, and she was known as Viscountess Anson. Then they were divorced, and she then married Prince George of Denmark. Now, what's really interesting about all of this is that Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, who was rabidly anti-divorce and remained so until the Duke of Windsor died, at which point she became a lot more flexible, and she had to remain rabidly anti-divorce until he was dead, which was a way of freezing him and Wallis out of the family. It's all there in my books, The Untold Life of Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, moved heaven and earth to make sure that Prince George of Denmark was allowed to marry her niece Anne. Notwithstanding the fact that she was not royal and that she was a divorcee. Why did Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, do it? Because she was ambitious for herself and her family. And I'm not knocking her for being ambitious for her family at all, at all, at all. She pulled out every stop and ensured that the King of Denmark allowed the marriage. I knew Prince George of Denmark. Prince George of Denmark used to say that his stepdaughter, Liz, was the most, he used to say she was the biggest social climber that God had put on this earth. And I remember the first time he said it to me. I said, well, I'm sorry, I really don't see where she has to climb. And he said, oh, but my dear, of course she had to climb. She's not royal. And I have to say, I was not crazy about Liz Anson. I didn't dislike her, but I didn't like her. We used to run in similar crowds, especially when we were all young, and she was okay. She married a photographer called Sir Geoffrey Shackley, and I think they had a daughter, if I remember correctly. But she was, especially after Princess Margaret and Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, died, she became far closer to the late Queen Elizabeth II, than she had been. She used to organize all their parties. She was a great party planner. In fact, a former roommate of mine also used to work for her at Party Planners. She also, little bit of gossip, she also overcharged Ivana Trump for an event that I attended, and Ivana sued her. Ivana said, I am not letting that woman get away with ripping me off, and didn't. Oh, well, Sally Bedell Smith was a friend of Liz Anson, and she has just confirmed an awful lot of what I said in my book, Meghan and Harry, The Real Story, about the way the Queen felt about Megsy Baby. Because the Queen, according to Sally Bedell Smith, became very skeptical of Meghan, because Meghan went from being sweet and pleasant and agreeable to being dominating and a bully. Well, that's all in my book. But it's nice to have it confirmed. She also made the point that Liz Anson said to her, we don't think that she's really in love with Harry. We think she's engineered the whole thing. But Harry is dumb and weak. I think she actually said Harry's not as bright or as strong as Meghan, but she meant dumb and weak. And that's pretty much the prevailing opinion from then till now. And so, was Meghan ever in love with Harry? Nobody thinks she was ever in love with Harry, any more than anybody who knows her well and knew her from the pre-Harry days thinks she was ever in love with Trevor. Oh, she posed as if she was in love with Trevor. Trev, I couldn't possibly survive without him. I don't know what I'd do if he died. And Nicky Pretty fell for it until she saw how Meghan discarded Trev. And all of a sudden, scales fell off her eyes. And she thought, this person I don't know. And this person I don't like. And this person is cold as ice. And this person is calculating, manipulative, and really such a dreadful human being that I don't want to know her. So I hope that answers that question. Joanna Lyons says, why are people on the left all hypocrites? For example, Harry wants his children to be involved in an institution he condemned. Well, may I say, Joanna Lyons, not all people on the left are hypocrites. But people on the left are very more adept at working the system than people on the right or in the center are, because they regard it as clever to breach the defenses of the system from within. Now, many a communist was ambitious and used communism to become rich and powerful. And as soon as communism collapsed, oh goodness, I was always a secret capitalist. Where Harry is concerned, don't for a second think that any of this is anything more than a pretend plan. Harry wants the perks and the privileges for himself and for Meghan. He needs to be able, for commercial and marital reasons, to be able to assert that he still has skin in the royal game. That even if he and Meghan have elected to step aside, their children, officially, without a doubt, their children, that his son and daughter will be able to become working royals, and that means that their position is secure, as indeed is Harry and Meghan's. Well, that's absolute rubbish. That is such a sleight of hand. It's tantamount to a brazen con, because Harry knows as well as I do that being the child of a younger child of a monarch does not entitle you to becoming a working royal. Indeed, it doesn't even entitle you to be known as prince and princess, except legally. I'm referring to the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh's children. Harry knows there's no way he's ever going to be able to achieve any profile for his children within the royal family as long as they remain outcasts in an outcast world, they being Harry and Meghan, and the children are members of an outcast world. What are they going to do? Bob up and become working royals and do what Meghan did? Happy to meet you. Happy to meet you. When, of course, it's always been taught you don't say you're happy to meet someone until after you've met them, in case it turns out you're not happy to meet them. But that's a nuance that people who believe in integrity will understand. Those who don't care about integrity and really just rock along with hypocrisy and, oh, am I not wonderful and so friendly and I just hug everybody, they go along with that. What's Harry aiming for? He's aiming for the ratification of his royal status. Nothing to do with the children. The children have over a decade to go before they achieve their majority. The world will be a lot different in more than a decade from now. Let's leave it at that for the moment and just remind ourselves Harry and Meghan are all about the perks and the privileges without putting in the hard labour. No graft for them. Grift and graft are very similar, but one has an I and the other has an A. Bohemia SB says, Lady C, what are your thoughts about Diana having been the daughter of Sir James Goldsmith and not Lord Spencer? I've heard the rumour for years. I think I might have even been one of the first people to write about it. So long ago, I really don't remember. I didn't believe it then, and I don't believe it now. Frances Shand Kidd was not stupid. She was aiming to have an heir to the Spencer earldom. There was no way she was going to get pregnant when she was hoping to produce a son. It doesn't make sense. Had she had a son already, then there is a possibility that things would have been more relaxed. I know of many cases, chief of which was Violet, Duchess of Rutland, and her daughter, Lady Diana Manners, who was Harry Cust's daughter, natural daughter. Oh, I know of several cases, including possibly my own mother and grandmother, but my grandmother wasn't aiming for a son and heir, and Frances at the time Althorp was aiming for a son and heir. This story doesn't make sense. Sorry, there is a casual resemblance between Jemima Khan and Diana Wales. It means nothing. I don't for a second believe it. I know there are people who would like to believe it. I know that people very close to the Goldsmith family would love it to have been true. Now, Annabel Goldsmith has knowledge of the fact that this sort of thing could and did happen, because her brother Alistair's first wife, Nicolette Powell, she produced the son and heir to the Londonderry Marquisate, and it turned out that the baby was not Alistair Londonderry's, but was Georgie Fame's, and it led to the child being delegitimized, and the Nicolette and Alistair Londonderry got divorced, and he married Doreen Wells, the ballet dancer, and they had 2 sons, lovely boys, very good looking. And in fact, last year at the Imperial Ball, the present Lady Londonderry was at my table. Beautiful girl, beautiful. So, but no, I'm sorry, I don't for a second believe it. I know some people would like to believe it, I don't. The Lady of GW says, Dear Lady C, do you see any similarities between Meghan and Jane Andrews, Fergie's personal dresser? I watched a documentary on her recently and found eerie similarities. I'm going to answer it because I've met Jane Andrews. I met her when she was going out with the son of a friend of mine. And I'm not going to embarrass them by mentioning his name or his mother's name. His mother's a very famous socialite. We used to sit on charity committees together all the time in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And I met Jane Andrews with him at a ball at the Grosvenor House socially. And she seemed perfectly pleasant. I have to say, I was astonished that the son was going out with Fergie's dresser, knowing that his mother was very socially aware. I mean, it's not as if to say she was a duke's daughter. I'm sounding snobbish, but I would have been very surprised had this mother approved of a relationship had it not involved somebody who was a collateral of some professional description of a member of, but by then ex-royal. I've heard things about her from this young man, and he had a lucky escape, and another great friend of mine was very friendly with Tommy, I can't remember his surname, the person who became her victim. And I know the family was extremely upset and will never forgive her. I didn't follow the trial. I found the whole thing so unsavory, and I don't really like unsavory matters. And I just found the whole thing so unsavory and sad, tragic, unnecessary. But I do know she was extremely ambitious. She was from a far more ordinary background than than you would have believed she was from upon meeting her. She was a great social climber, and she climbed the ladder pretty effectively. And then it all ended tragically because I think she was clearly mentally ill. If there are eerie similarities, they are, I take your word for it. I'm not going to even look at anything about it. It's too unsavory for me to sorry. And let's remember, I also have a history of loss which has been forced upon us as a family. So I'm not going to go down the route of looking at so. But would it surprise me that you found similarities? Not particularly. You know, not every sociopath or psychopath is murderous. I mean, there are many ways of skinning a cat, and many people who will be extremely destructive in the personal sense won't actually ever lift a finger to harm you physically, but they don't need to. They devour you in other ways. So, and we will end with what Miss Steph Abdullah says. The dirty dancing most certainly had the flavour of being a celebratory dance while waiting for a surrogate to give birth. I agree. That's certainly the ethos, shall we say. However, regarding Archie's birth, how do you think a surrogate could have been pulled off? I think you mean a surrogacy, sorry, could have been pulled off in the UK based on the very strict laws there surrounding surrogacy. It seems a nearly impossible feat. Shall we remove this from Archie's birth and just discuss it as a possibility that has nothing to do with Archie's birth? If you wanted to have a surrogate arrangement in this country and you wanted to pass off the child as if it had been born of your body, it would be relatively simple to do as long as you had a home birth. Where the problems would begin to pile up would be if you did not have a home birth and there was a medical emergency and the woman giving birth to the baby had to be taken to the hospital. However, all you need to do in an emergency situation is be identified by name. Is anybody going to ask you for your identifying papers? No. If there is a passing resemblance, by the time the deception would be recognized, you would be already a part of the system, and your well-being would be of paramount importance. I'm not saying it would be easy to pull off. I think it would be very difficult to pull off. But would it be impossible to pull off? It depends on the hospital. Now, a friend of mine was one of the doctors who set up the obstetrics department at the Portland Hospital. And this friend of mine has told me that the Portland is extremely flexible, because each doctor is effectively an island unto him or herself. Each case is in its own bubble. The staff that are not hospital staff per se, they are medical staff brought in by the contracting parties. So it would be more difficult in a hospital, but would it be impossible? Depending on the hospital, no, it would not be impossible. Now, I'm not accusing Meghan and Harry of anything, and I need to say this for legal reasons. And I hope that we can move the predicament of them onto just any other party. And with any other party who had enough money and enough coverage in terms of medical assistance. And let's remember, all doctors, nurses, medical staff, even medical cleaners are subject to strict confidentiality. So I leave you with that information. And on that note, I'll say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please keep the questions and comments coming in so I will know what you would like us to be speaking about. Thank you so much, and I hope you have found it tolerable seeing me in this state. Thanks. God bless. And if you have truly enjoyed this, would you care to like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and take good care. Bye-bye.